For over 65 episodes, Kiyaya and Daniel have been here sharing great literature for kids and adolescents. It's time to sit back, relax, and get cozy, because it's story time with Kiyaya and Daniel. Maniac Tuesdays continue today with the conclusion of Jerry Spinelli's Newberry Award-winning book, Maniac Magee. It's all happening now on Let's Get Cozy, because it's story time with Kiyaya and Daniel.
Hi, my name is Donnell Carter, certified personal trainer through National Academy of Sports Medicine, and certified nutrition coach through Precision Nutrition. I'm here today to talk to you about online personal training, the future of personal training right on your phone. We start the week with an overview and progress reports. Following that, we have our calendar, day 3, 4, 5 different workouts. Further in depth, we see exactly what we're doing for the day. Find out more information, contact me.
Stories are such an important part of our lives. Join my friend Kiyaya and I for Get Cozy, because it's story time with Kiyaya and Daniel, where we share some of the greatest picture books and chapters from children's and young adult literature to inspire you to keep embedding literacy into your days. Chapter 42. George McNabb was the first to speak up. He was stretched out on the only new piece of furniture in the house, a tilt-back lounge chair. Said McNabb, "What's he doing here?" The awkward silence that followed was mercifully broken by Piper tugging on Maniac's arm. "Where's my birthday present? What'd you get me?" Maniac pulled the present from his pocket. Piper exclaimed, "A watch!" "No," said Maniac, "a compass. It tells you which direction you're going." "Like to the ocean?" asked Russell. "The ocean? Mexico? Anywhere in the world. Only one thing." "What's that?" Maniac took the compass from Piper's hand. "I'm keeping it till school's over. If you go every day, both of you, then you can have it back and sail around the world." "On our raft!" Piper cheered. "Is it a deal?" Piper and Russell and Maniac did a three-way high-five. "It's a deal." George McNabb pulled himself up from the easy chair and shuffled into the kitchen. He wore bareback slippers over bare feet. His white ankles were dirty. He took a beer can from the fridge and headed for the steps. "Let me know when it leaves," he said, and went upstairs. Maniac could feel the voltage that surged through Mars bar and crackled black lightning from his eyes. Quickly, he clapped his hands. "Hey, isn't this a party? Where's the games?" So they played games, silly games whose main object seemed to be shrieking and screaming. Mars bar allowed himself to be dragged into them, but his jaw was clenched and his eyes kept straying to the gaping hole in the ceiling, and to the cobras, who were slouching against the walls and baseboards, sipping beers, and watching his every move. None of them had spoken since Maniac and Mars walked in. Of course, as far as the little kids were concerned, the highlight of the whole party was not the birthday boy, Piper McNabb, but the McNabb's new pillbox. They found every excuse to stay inside it. They fought over space at the narrow gunnery slots. When Mars bar whispered to Maniac, "What is that?" Maniac said it was a bomb shelter. Then Russell called, "Let's play Rebels! White's in the pillbox, black's outside." A cheer went up, and a dozen kids stampeded into the pillbox. Their gabble circled the cinder blocks, walls, and popped from the gunnery slots. "I'm gonna be white! I'm white! Me too! Too many in here! We need more blacks!" "Not me! Not me! We ain't got enough guns! Only the ones with guns are in! The rest of you get out! You're black!" "Give me a gun! I had it first! Come on, you meatballs! Blacks is the best part! You get to charge!" "Yeah, We get to lose. Look, you can use beer cans for grenades. You can lob grenades. Then you do it. Well, somebody gotta be black, else we ain't playing. I'm counting. Time I hit 10, I want to see 5 of you out of here. 1. Russell counted. No one came out. Not at 9. Not at 10. Not after 10. Maniac and Mars Bar stared in silence at the gunnery slots where wide-open eyes began to appear. One pair atop another. The 3 words that Mars Bar sneered, the joke that he spat out, yeah, bomb shelter, did not even have the moment to themselves. For just then, another word, Geronimo, came plunging from the sky and landed with a floor-jarring, heart-stopping crash directly behind him. A cobra had jumped from the hole, a fat red-haired cobra who was now rolling on the floor and laughing so hard, as were all the cobras, that his face matched the color of his hair. You see him? You see him jump? I never see his face. Somebody check out his pants, check out his drawers. Oh man, oh. Maniac had to wrap Mars Bar in a bear hug to keep him from charging the fat red roller. The laughter stopped him as if cut by scissors. The cobras were standing. John McNabb sauntered forward. You got a problem, Sonny? That wasn't funny, John, said Maniac. He could have been hurt. McNabb kept his eyes on Mars Bar. I ain't talking to you, McGee. I'm talking to Sonny here. Don't you like our parties, Sonny boy? Mars Bar strained against Maniac's arms. You ain't got to worry about me coming to no more of your parties, Fishbelly. And you ain't got to worry about me invading this piss hole. Anybody come to a block away, they faint from the smell. McNabb advanced. Maniac shouted, John, you owe me one. I brought the boys back. McNabb took another step, then stayed. And Maniac, clamping the struggling Mars Bar for dear life, lugged him down a gauntlet of seething eyes to the door and the street. Mars Bar wrenched free and stomped on ahead. Maniac followed. It was almost dark. High above, the streetlights were buzzing on, one by one. After several blocks, Mars Bar wheeled. You suckered me. You softened me up with them pick peoples, then bring me here. What'd you think? I was gonna cry? Okay, I come over. I did it. It's done. And don't you be coming round no more. You hear me, Fish? 'Cause you ain't only seen me half bad yet. He turned and headed due east. Maniac walked another way. It was a good question. What had he thought? What had he expected? A miracle? Well, come to think of it, maybe one had happened. While he was looking for one miracle, maybe another had snuck up on him. It happened as he was clamping and lugging Mars Bar down the gauntlet of cobras, trying to keep him alive. And what was Mars doing? Fighting him. Maniac straining to get loose and bust some cobras. Outnumbered, outweighed, but not outhearted. That's when Maniac felt it. Pride for this East End warrior whom Maniac could feel trembling in his arms, scared as any normal kid would be, but not showing it to them. Yeah, you're bad, all right, Mars Bar. You're more than bad. You're good. Maniac stopped. He had been walking in circles. It was dark. He turned one way, then another, for the briefest moment thinking to go home. Thinking, it's time to go home now. Then remembering that once again, he had no home to go to. Chapter 43. He slept in the park that night, and for the next dozen or so. Sometimes in the buffalo shed, other times the bandshell benches or the pavilion. The nights were warm now. June was on the way. He ate when and where he could. For apples and carrots and day-old hamburger buns, you couldn't beat the deer and buffalo pens. A new Acme had opened, and the bakery section always had a tray of free samples sitting on the counter. And then there were always the Pickwells. It may have been an illusion, but it seemed that the hungrier he got, the farther Mrs. Pickwell's whistle traveled. Some dinner times there was hardly a spot in town from which he could not hear it. He read in the library. He joined pickup games in the park, baseball, basketball. School was letting out. There were more kids. Mornings were the best. He would rise with the sun's color before the sun itself, before the bison set out. He came to think of these apple skin hours as his special time with the town. There was not a street or alleyway or house or store, not even a garage, that he did not recognize. His footsteps fell everywhere but on the bridge over the Schuylkill, his eyes everywhere but on the P&W trolley trestle. And the people, most of them, he did not know by name or face, yet they revealed themselves to him even as they slept. He knew them by their windows and cars and porches and toys they left outside. But most of all, he knew them by their backyards. Flowers, weeds, junk, pet houses, tree houses, vegetable gardens, rubber tires, grass ranging from desert sparse to shaggy to trim as a Marine's haircut. The backyards were as different as the individuals' faces. East End and West End, black and white, would begin only when the alarm clocks rang. For now, before sunrise, there were no divisions, no barriers. There were only the people, the families, the town, his town, as much his as anyone else's. He knew he could be sleeping right then in the Beals' house or the Pickwells or even the McNabbs. But beyond that, for a few enchanted moments each newborn morning, he believed there was not a single home in Two Mills, not a single one, that would not happily welcome him to enter, and to go upstairs and curl up between its sleepers. Maybe that's why he left his bandshell bench late one night in mid-June and went to somebody's backyard on Hamilton Street. Someone whose leaf lettuce he watched growing, and quietly opened the gate and closed it behind him, and laid himself down on a white wicker love seat on the back porch. From then on, he slept in a different backyard or back porch every night. Once, finding the back door unlocked, he slept in a kitchen. Chapter 44. One morning in early July, cruising down the Appleskin Hour, Maniac thought he heard footsteps other than his own. He stopped. Only the vast quietness responded. It happened a few more times. Must be his own footfalls echoing down the row house canyons. 2 days later, passing an alley, he thought something moved at the other end. And once, turning onto a broad street, he had the feeling, more sense than sight, that something had just flashed around a corner 2 blocks away. When these odd sensations continued for another morning or two, Maniac knew he was not alone. So he was not totally surprised when a few mornings later he turned a corner and ran smack into another early hour cruiser. No, it wasn't the what that surprised him. It was the who. Mars, Barr, Thompson. They quickly bounced off each other and went their separate ways. Neither paused. Neither said a word. This was the first time in a series of apparently random mergings. Intersections, alleyways, one never knew when he would come upon the other. Sometimes they found themselves running the same route, only a block apart. On one occasion they trotted down the same street at the same time in the same direction, but on opposite sides of the street. And then one day, as it happened, they each turned a particular corner at the same moment and headed off in the same direction, side by side. Still, neither spoke. Not even their eyes met. They jogged silently for a block, then veered apart. The next time they dovetailed, they stayed that way for 2 blocks, then 3 blocks, and so on. No words, no looks, just the rhythmic slapping of their sneaker soles on the sidewalk and the pulsing duet of their breathings. Stride for stride, shoulder to shoulder, breath for breath. Still, they were matching on all points, a harnessed pair, 2 runners becoming one. Morning after morning it happened this way, the 2 of them dovetailing at an intersection, and, without the slightest hitch in stride, cruising off together. Though each face showed no awareness of the other, they were, in fact, minutely sensitive to each other. If Mars bars cranked up the pace just a notch, Maniac would pick it up within a stride. If Maniac inched ahead, Mars bar was there. If one veered to the left or right, the other followed like a shadow. One day one was the leader, the next day the other. One day Mars bar would lead Maniac down the river, down the tracks past the railroad gondolas, each with its mountain of coal, to the rolling mill at the steel plant where his father worked. Another day, Maniac would head for the townships to the north and west, the farmlands of the county, where dew sparkled on spiderwebs and nature was doing such fresh and wonderful things that you could almost hear the long, neat congregations of corn clapping. Amen. Amen. When the working people began leaving their houses, the daybreak boys diverged. Mars bar to the east end, Maniac to wherever. A week passed, a second week, morning after morning, stride for stride, breath by breath, never a word, never a glance, each believing the other simply happened to be going where he was going. They were cruising Main Street one morning, passing the Grand Movie Theater, when Piper McNabb came screaming down the middle of the empty street. He was wild-eyed and crying and soaking wet. His feet were slathered in coal-black mud. He shrieked and babbled at them, but he made no sense, so they just followed as he raced frantically back up the street. As they ran, the belch-like toot of a whistle grew louder and louder. He led them to the corner of Main and Swede, to where the platform of the P&W trolley terminal hung high above the sidewalk. He burst into the terminal building and up the steps. In a moment, Maniac and Mars bar were on the platform, gasping and following Piper's pointing finger down the tracks. What they saw pulled the fragments of Piper's babble together. The boys had been playing bombs away. Piper's part was to sail the raft down the river. Russell's part was to wait on the trolley trestle that spanned the river, and when Piper passed underneath, bomb away from a bucket full of rocks. Everything went as planned, unless you count Russell's failing to sink the raft and Piper's practically drowning trying to beach it. Until Piper returned to the terminal to find Russell still out on the trestle. Apparently, without a target below to focus on, Russell had suddenly discovered how high he was. One false step, and he could slip between the ties to the river. And that's where Russell was now, out on the middle of the trestle, high over the water, frozen in terror, not even a railing to cling to, responding neither to Piper's cries, nor to the red and yellow P&W trolley, which also occupied the trestle, idling and tooting about 20 feet away. Piper pulled at Maniac. "Save him! Save him!" Mars bar stared with growing astonishment at Maniac, whose wide, unblinking eyes were fixed on the trestle, yet somehow did not seem to register what was there, nor did he seem to hear Piper pleading. With the drenched, mud-footed kid clawing at him, he turned, without a word, without a gesture, and left the platform, and went downstairs. Shortly he appeared on the sidewalk below. He crossed Main, and continued walking slowly up Swede, Piper screaming after him from the end of the platform. Chapter 45. Magee! Magee! Maniac first Groggle thought was that it was the buffalo calling to him. Then he thought, it's the superintendent. He's discovered me, and he's come to kick me out. He propped himself on his elbow, swatted a straw from his ear, and gave a better listen. Magee! Magee! Mars bar. It was the second night following the morning at the trestle. Maniac had been asleep in the buffalo lean-to. He stood. Magee! Where are you? Here! Over here! He headed toward the voice of the hoof-chopped earth. The moon was full. He could see Mars bar's dark form against the fence. Then he could see his eyes. What are you doing here? I've been looking for you. I heard you hung out here. Where'd you hear that? Amanda Beale. You really sleep here, man? What do you want? Where's the buffaloes? I can't see them. They're sleeping like every other person that's got sense. What are you doing out here at this time of night? I snuck out. I'm not there when they usually wake up. They'll figure I'm out running, like usual. Ain't you afraid in there? No. Both fell silent. Cricket talk and fireflies held the night. McGee? Yeah? I gotta ask you something. Go ahead. Why did you go after the kid? Why'd you go away? Maniac didn't answer. Listen, man, I know you wasn't scared. I know it, so I had to come ask you. Maniac's voice came faintly. Is he okay? I asked you first. Maniac drew a long breath. You want to come in? Maniac Marsbar laughed. You kidding? Ain't no buffalo gonna eat this dude. They don't eat people. You come out here, man. Maniac climbed the fence. He started to walk. Marsbar walked with him. Maniac told him the story of his parents' death. He told about his problems with the trestle and how he learned to avoid it. And then, all of a sudden, there I was on the platform, looking out at it, closer to it than I ever was before. Up on the same level. I always saw it from below before. Now I was up there too. Where they were, looking down, and it was more real than ever. The nightmare was worse than ever. I saw the trolley coming. I saw it falling. Them. They walked in silence past the silo-shaped cage of the broken-winged golden eagle. Marsbar swallowed hard. His voice was hoarse. I knew you wasn't scared. Maniac sniffed. I don't remember much. Next thing I knew, I was somewhere on Swede Street. Somebody come down the east end like you did, all by yourself, with Fishbelly get all up in my face? He rippled a stick along the deer pen fence. I knew, scared, wasn't it. So, said Maniac, what happened? Marsbar laughed, wagged his head. Happened? Man, I still don't believe it. He rippled the fence. That little hunky, he looks at me with his crybaby face and says, okay, can I go out and get his brother? I look around, like, is somebody else here? I says to him, who are you talking to, me? I'm just pulling his chain, only he don't know it. 'Cause I'm ticked a little, because there he was hollering for you up the street, and there I am, standing right alongside the damn stupid white potato. Understand what I'm saying? Maniac nodded, and out of the darkness came the strangest sound, kind of an amplified gulp. Marsbars jumped. What's that? Emu, said Maniac. There. Behind the nearest fence loomed a tall, thin neck topped by a small head. What? Emu. Second largest bird in the world after the ostrich. They're from Australia. I don't remember studying about no emu. You buddies with all these dudes? No, just the buffalo. So, go ahead. What happened? What happened? Marsbar snorted. What happened was I went out and rescued the dumb fish. Looked like to get myself killed. Maniac touched Marsbar's arm. He's okay? Marsbar snickered. Yeah, he's okay. But that ain't the main part. The main part is how he was all grabbing onto me, coming off them tracks, shaking, shivering, hugging like he wanted to climb inside me. I was afraid. He shook his head, giggled. Afraid the Fishbelly was gonna kiss me. They laughed. Maniac tried to picture it, the two of them making their way across the trestle tie by tie, arms wrapped around each other. And even that isn't the mainest part, said Marsbar, his voice rising in wonder. Even when we got off, the midget wouldn't let me go. We're off it, I says to him. You're rescued. But all he does is grab me harder, like he's an octopus or something. Off the platform, down the steps, onto the street. He's still doing it. I couldn't pry him off nohow. So, said Maniac, what did you do? What did I do? I took him home. Maniac stopped dead. What? Marsbar shrugged. I figured, let my mom pry him off me. Of course, the other one had to come too, but I made him leave them muddy sneakers outside. He put his nose to a fence. What's in there? I don't see nothing. Prairie Dog Town. They're underground. So what then? So, my mother took over. She pried the one off me, and soon as she does, he jumps right onto her like an octopus. I go to pull him off, and she gets all mad at me and says to let him go. Let him go! She gets the wet one dried off, takes off his clothes, and puts my old stuff on him. Stuff she's been saving, in case I get a little brother someday. But I won't, because my mom can't have no more babies. And I ain't even come to the craziest part yet. What's that? They didn't want to go home. They stayed all day. My mother babying them, feeding them. I tell her not to. She swats me away. Sometimes my mom ain't got no sense. She makes me play games with them, Monopoly and stuff. Finally, my father drives them home. It's after dark. They're getting out of the car. And know what they say to me? I'm in the car too. He wagged his head. They asked me to come in and play that game of theirs, Rebels. They beg me. They say, come on, please. If you play with us, we'll let you be white. You believe that? Maniac chuckled. I believe it. They walked on. McGee? Yeah? I had to ask you something. Now I gotta tell you something. What's that? You smell like a buffalo. Ears of 100 different shapes prickled at the long, loud laughter of the boys. McGee, Mars said, after a spell. Yeah? My mother wants to ask you something, too. Your mother? Yeah, I told her about you, you know? Actually, she already heard about you. So? She wants to know, why don't you come to our house? Maniac turned and stared directly at Marsbar. Marsbar looked away. He said nothing more. They walked on, silent among the crickets and fireflies. Having made a full circle of the zoo, they were back at the pen of the American bison. Maniac said, I can't. Why not? Said Marsbar. My house not good enough? My mother? Maniac struggled for words. I didn't say I didn't want to. It's just, I don't know. Things happen. I can't. Look, man, Marsbar snapped. Ain't nobody saying come live with us. All she's saying, is you want to come for a little, visit. You want to? Well, come on, you can. That's all. Don't go making no big thing, man. Ain't no big thing. Maniac shuddered. He turned his eyes to the sky, beyond the flickering fireflies, to the stars. If there were answers, they were as far away as the constellations. I gotta go, he said, and before Marsbar could react, he was over the fence and hurrying for the lean-to. Chapter 46. The teeth of the buffalo clamped firmly upon his ear and lifted his head up from the straw, up from sleep. Marsbar was right. They do eat people. The buffalo did more than bring great pain to his ear. It spoke to him. Ain't you nice? Ain't you nice? But the voice of the buffalo was the voice of a mandibule, and its teeth were her fingers pulling and wrenching his poor ear till he was sitting upright. See that? She snapped and scrambled his brains with a smack to the head. He'd rather she pulled his ear. There you go, making me say ain't. I have not said that word all year long, and now you go making me so mad. She snatched a handful of straw and flung it at him. I'm sorry, he said. He wondered if he could have better luck sleeping in the emu pen. Can I ask a question? Make it quick, she growled. Except for making you say ain't. What is it I'm saying I'm sorry for? What? She screeched. She was standing above him, hands on hips. He didn't need the light of day to feel the look on her face. You're sorry for a whole mess of things, boy. You're sorry because you didn't accept Snickers' invitation to his house. And you're sorry because he came throwing a ball up against my bedroom window and waking me up and telling me I had to get up out of my bed and sneak out of my house in the middle of the night and come out here to do something about all this. That is why you are sorry, boy. Maniac yawned. Snickers? That's what I'm changing his name to. How bad could you act if everybody is calling you, she said it loud, Snickers. A voice came rasping from the French sense. Shut up, girl. Maniac howled with laughter. It struck him that it had been a long time since he had reared back like this, so he just let the laughter carry on as long as it wanted. When he finally settled down, Amanda said, Okay, let's go. Huh? Said Maniac. Let's go. Where? Home. Whose? Mine? Yours? Ours? Come on, I'm sleepy. Oh no. Maniac opened his mouth to speak, to protest, to explain. But there was too much. 100 nights would not be long enough to explain, to make her understand, so he simply said, I can't, and laid back down. In an instant, he was bolt upright again, yanked by a hand he couldn't believe belonged to a girl. Don't tell me can't. I didn't come all the way out here in my nightshirt and my slippers and climb that fence and almost kill myself so I could hear you tell me can't. She was yelling. Several pens away, Prairie Dog Town stirred. Heads popped out into the moonlight. You got it all wrong, Buster. You ain't got. Ooh, see? She kicked him. You do not have a choice. I am not asking you. I'm telling you. You are coming home with me, and you're going to sleep in my room, which is going to be your room. And I don't care if you sleep on the floor or the windowsill, but you're going to sleep there, and not here. And you're going to sleep there tonight, and tomorrow night, and every night, except maybe once in a while if you decide to sleep over at Snickers' house, if he ever asks you again. This is not your home. Now move. She jerked him to his feet. Applause and a brief whistle came from the fence. Amanda led him by the hand across the muddy, lumpy earth. Boost me, she commanded at the fence. He boosted her. Marsbar helped her down from the other side. Maniac hesitated, then climbed over himself. They walked through the zoo and down the boulevard, the three of them, Amanda and Marsbar Snicker and Maniac. Amanda grumbling all the way, You're more trouble outside the house than in it. Now I'm going to have to throw these slippers away. There's probably buffalo poop all over them. And you better not come within 10 feet of me, boy, till you get a bath. Maniac said nothing. He was quite content to let Amanda do the talking, for he knew that behind her grumbling was all that he ever wanted. He knew that finally, truly, at long last, somebody was calling him home. Maniac Magee by Jerry Spinelli. I don't know about all of you, but I know Kiyaya and I are really sad to see the end of Maniac Magee, but wasn't that a phenomenal story and a great way to end? The powerful words that Jerry Spinelli wrote way back in the 1990s still ring so true today, in the year 2020, and all the oppression that people still feel. But we want to know what you think about Maniac Magee. What did you like? What did you enjoy the most? What did you relate to? Share your thoughts and feelings and reactions on our social media, at Stitching Wolf on Facebook and Instagram, or send them to us through email. Get Kozy at STITCHINGwolfdesigns.com. We'll be back tomorrow for another episode of Let's Get Kozy, because it's story time with Kiyaya and Daniel. And remember, Reading is